Do you ever think about just vanishing? No grand exit, no goodbyes, no explanations, just one day, you're gone. The messages go unanswered, the calls stop, your name drifts away from conversations like smoke in the wind. At first they wonder, they speculate, maybe even panic. But time is ruthless and soon enough the world moves on. When you disappear, people will notice, but only for a while. At first there's confusion. The unanswered calls pile up. The messages sit undelivered with no response. Maybe they think you're just busy, caught up in life. A day or two goes by and they assume you'll reach out when you have time. But then a week passes, then a month, and the silence becomes loud. The ones who care the most will feel it first. They'll replay old conversations, trying to pinpoint the moment you started slipping away. They'll wonder if they missed a sign, if there was something they could have said or done to make you stay. Maybe they'll ask around, check in with mutual friends, try to piece together the puzzle of your disappearance. Some will worry, convinced something terrible has happened to you. Others will get frustrated, feeling abandoned, left with nothing but questions they can't answer. For a little while, you'll still exist in their daily routines. They'll catch themselves about to text you only to remember you're gone. They'll hear a joke and think, oh, they would have loved that. But the thought stops there. You linger in their thoughts like a shadow, present but unreachable. But time doesn't wait. Eventually, the calls stop coming. The texts stop being sent. They have you heard from them. Conversations grow fewer until they disappear completely. The silence that once felt unbearable becomes normal. They adapt, they move on, because that's what people do. The absence that once felt like a wound heals into a scar, a reminder of someone who used to be there. Your name, once spoken with familiarity, now only comes up in passing. Oh yeah, whatever happened to them? But even that question doesn't last forever. Because as much as we'd like to believe otherwise, we are not irreplaceable. Life is relentless, always pushing forward, always filling the gaps left behind, and one day you realize that the world didn't pause when you left. It just kept spinning as if you were never there at all. The ones who care will try to reach you, but they won't chase forever. At first, they'll be patient. They'll assume you're just caught up in something, overwhelmed, distracted. Maybe they'll double text, leave a voicemail, send a message saying, hey, just checking in, hope you're okay. They won't want to be too pushy, but they'll keep trying, giving you the benefit of the doubt. Then, when the silence stretches longer, concern starts creeping in. They'll start asking questions, not just to themselves, but to others. Have you heard from them? Are they all right? They'll stroll through your old messages, looking for any sign that this was coming. Maybe they'll replay the last conversation you had, searching for a missed clue, some unspoken goodbye buried between the lines. They'll keep hoping for a reply, even if it's just a single word. Something to prove you're still out there, still thinking about them, still part of their world. But when nothing comes, when their calls go straight to voicemail, when their messages sit unread for weeks, something inside them shifts. The worry turns to frustration. They start to wonder why they're the only ones trying. They start to feel foolish, standing at a closed door, knocking over and over with no answer. Maybe they'll send one last message, something final, something raw. I don't know what's going on, but I can't keep reaching out like this. And when that goes unanswered too, they'll understand. They'll sit with that understanding for a while and it will hurt. The realization that someone they cared about, someone they would have done anything for, just walked away without a word, it leaves a sting that lingers. They'll wrestle with anger, sadness, confusion. Maybe they'll hold on to hope for a little longer, telling themselves you'll come back when you're ready, but eventually they'll stop waiting. Because no one chases forever, no matter how much they care, no matter how much they love you. Everyone has a breaking point. And once they reach it, once they decide to let go, there's no rewinding time. The door that was once open, waiting for you to step back through, quietly closes. And when you finally turn around to look, you might find that no one's standing there anymore. Your absence will create stories, and not all of them will be true. When you disappear, people don't just accept the silence, they try to fill in the blanks. The human mind hates unanswered questions, and when you leave without explanation, you become a mystery that demands solving. So they start to speculate. They build narratives about why you left, where you went, and what it all means. Some of these stories are innocent guesses, attempts to rationalize your absence. Others are twisted by emotion, hurt, anger, confusion, and they become something else entirely. At first, the people who truly knew you might defend you. They must have their reasons. Maybe they're going through something. Maybe they just need space. But as time drags on, doubt creeps in. If they cared, wouldn't they have said something? If they needed help, why didn't they ask? And then The theories start to spread. Some will assume you left because you were unhappy, because you outgrew them, because they weren't enough. Others will decide you were selfish, that you never really cared, that all those memories and late night talks meant nothing in the end. The worst part? You don't get a say in any of it. When you walk away without an explanation, you surrender control of your own narrative. People will paint you in whatever colors make sense to them, and those versions of you will live on in their minds, whether they're accurate or not. Some might see you as a lost soul, someone who ran away to find something bigger, something better. Others will cast you as a villain, the one who abandoned them, who didn't have the decency to say goodbye. And once those stories take root, they spread. Friends will whisper about you in conversations you're no longer part of. Remember them? Yeah, I heard they just disappeared one day. No explanation, nothing. And with every retelling, the details shift, the tone changes, and the version of you that exists in their minds drifts further from the truth. Maybe you left because you had no choice. Maybe you needed to escape, to breathe, to start fresh. But the world doesn't wait for explanations. It just keeps spinning, and in your absence, it decides for itself who you were. And the longer you stay gone, the less the truth matters. Because in the end, people remember stories, not silence. Time moves on, and so do people. Memories fade and connections break. At first, your absence is a shock, a missing piece that doesn't quite fit into the lives you left behind. People feel it like an empty chair at a crowded table, like an unfinished sentence hanging in the air. They notice the little things, how your name still pops up in group chats but goes unanswered, how a song reminds them of you but they don't know if you'd still call it your favorite. They hold on to those moments, waiting, expecting you to return, to pick up where things left off. But time has a way of softening even the sharpest absences. The spaces you left behind don't stay empty forever. The inside jokes you once shared become relics of the past, replaced by new conversations, new laughter. The events you used to be a part of still happen, just without you. At first, your name might still come up. I wonder what they're up to, but slowly, inevitably, it gets mentioned less and less. One day, someone brings you up and the response is a shrug. I haven't thought about them in a while. People move forward because they have to. They build new routines, new friendships, new stories where you don't exist. It's not out of malice, it's just the way life works. The past only holds people for so long before they start reaching for the future. And without constant reminders, memories of you begin to blur at the edges. The sound of your voice, once familiar, becomes harder to recall. The exact shade of your laughter, the way you used to say certain words, the little habits that made you you, they start to slip away. And when people forget the details, they forget the depth. They stop wondering about what made you disappear. They stop waiting for you to come back. Eventually, you become a story told in passing, a name someone recognizes but can't quite place, someone they used to know a long time ago. And just like that, the connection that once felt unbreakable turns into something fragile, something distant, something barely there at all. Vanishing might give you freedom, but it also leaves scars, both on you and those you leave behind. There's a certain allure in the idea of disappearing, of slipping away without a trace, leaving behind all the burdens, all the expectations, all the weight of who you were. It feels like escape, like a clean slate, like breaking free from the chains of a life that no longer fits. But freedom isn't without consequence. Every action, every absence, every silence leaves a mark, whether you see it or not. For the people you left behind, the scars show up in different ways. Some will carry confusion, replaying the last words you ever said to them, trying to figure out there was a hidden message, a warning they missed. Some will feel betrayal, wondering how someone they cared about could just vanish without a second thought. Others will struggle with guilt, convinced they could have done something, said something, been something that would have made you stay. And some, the ones who loved you most, will hold on to that pain like an open wound, never fully healing, always wondering where you went and why you never looked back. But the scars don't just belong to them. You carry them too. You don't get to walk away without consequence, without ghosts trailing behind you. At first, it might feel like relief, the weight of expectation gone, the past fading into the distance. But absence has a way of echoing back at you. The people you left behind don't just disappear from your life, they become shadows in your mind. Reminders of what was, of what could have been. The birthdays you miss, the milestones you don't witness, the people who were once your safe place, now existing in a world where you don't belong. And then there's the loneliness. Because when you disappear, you don't just leave people, you leave the version of yourself that existed with them. The inside jokes, the late night talks, the moments of connection that made you feel seen, understood, real. When you erase yourself from their lives, you erase those pieces of yourself too. And no matter how far you run, no matter how much you convince yourself that disappearing was the right choice, there will always be quiet moments where you feel it, the ache of everything you left behind, the scars you carry in the shape of the people you used to know.
You don't get to control how people remember you once you're gone. The moment you disappear, you lose the right to shape your own legacy. You might think you're just stepping away, taking time, finding space, but in your absence, people are left with nothing but fragments of who you used to be. And when those fragments don't fit together neatly, they fill in the gaps however they see fit. Some will remember you kindly. They'll hold on to the best parts of you, the laughter, the warmth, the moments when you made their world feel lighter. They'll tell stories about the times you were there for them, about the way you made them feel, about the little quirks that made you, you. But without new memories to add to the story, even the good ones start to feel distant, like a photograph fading in the sun. Others won't be so forgiving. To them, you'll be the one who left without a word, the person who disappeared when they needed you most. They won't remember the good times as clearly as they remember the silence, the unanswered texts, the sudden vanishing act. They'll remember the way they reached out, the way they waited, the way they finally had to accept that you weren't coming back. And resentment will take root where connection once was. Even those who don't hold on to anger will have their own versions of you, shaped by time, distance, and the way absence warps perception. Maybe they'll turn you into a myth, someone who was once close but now feels like a dream. Maybe they'll reduce you to a single moment, a single mistake, a single decision. Maybe they'll stop thinking about you altogether, your name just another ghost in the past, barely worth a second thought. The truth is, when you walk away without explanation, you leave your story in the hands of others, and people rarely tell a story exactly as it happened. They shape it based on how they felt, on what they needed to believe, on what makes the most sense to them. You might think that by disappearing, you're taking control of your life, reclaiming your own narrative, but in reality, you're surrendering it. Because once you're gone, you have no say in the way you're remembered. Or if you're remembered at all, coming back isn't always an option. Sometimes the place you left no longer exists the way you remember it. You might think that disappearing is temporary, that one day you can just walk back into the life you left behind, slip back into old conversations, pick up where things stopped. Maybe you tell yourself that people will understand, that time will have softened the edges, that you'll find everything just as you left it, waiting for your return. But life doesn't work that way. While you were gone, the world kept turning. The friendships you thought would be forever have stretched, reshaped, or faded completely. The places you once called home have changed. The coffee shop where you used to meet your friends might have closed. Your favorite hangout might have new faces. The house you grew up in might not belong to your family anymore. Even the people who once knew you best have moved forward, adjusting to a life where you are just a memory. And when you finally return expecting the familiar, you might find yourself feeling like a stranger in the places you once belonged. The inside jokes don't make sense anymore. The conversations feel distant, forced, as if there's an invisible wall between you and the people you once called your own. The people who once dropped everything to be there for you now hesitate, uncertain, unsure if they can trust you to stay this time. You'll try to reconnect, to explain, to make up for lost time, but time is unforgiving. It doesn't pause when you leave, and it doesn't rewind when you come back. The relationships that once felt unbreakable might not have a place for you anymore. You may realize that no matter how much you want to return to the past, some doors don't open again once they've been closed. Some bonds, once broken, never fully mend. And the hardest part? It's not just the world that has changed. You have too. The version of you that left isn't the same one trying to come back. The experiences you had while you were gone, the things you saw, the loneliness you carried, they've shaped you in ways that make it impossible to fit back into the same mold. Even if the people and places stayed the same, you haven't. And sometimes that's the biggest reason why coming back doesn't feel like home anymore. One day you'll realize that disappearing didn't erase the past, it just left it unresolved. You might have left to escape, to start over, to sever ties that felt too heavy to carry. Maybe you thought that by walking away you could outrun the things that haunted you, that if you stopped answering, if you removed yourself from the picture, then everything that weighed on you would simply dissolve into the silence. But time doesn't work like that. Neither does memory. The past doesn't vanish just because you do. The moments you left behind, the conversations you abandoned, the people who once held space for you, they don't disappear, they linger in the quiet corners of your mind, creeping in when you least expect them. A familiar song plays and suddenly you're back in a moment you tried to forget. A smell, a phrase, a random detail cracks open something you thought was buried, and just like that, you're facing the things you ran from, only now they've grown heavier with time. The people you left behind had to make sense of your absence in their own way. Some of them healed, some of them grew, some of them hardened. And while you were gone, while you were trying to move forward, they were doing the same, but without you. And that means the past you left is no longer something you can step back into. If you ever try to return, you might find that the people you once knew no longer look at you the same way. You might see the shadow of hurt in their eyes, or worse, indifference, the realization that they've learned how to live without you. But even if no one is waiting for you anymore, even if the doors you once knew have closed, the unresolved parts of your past will still be there. The words you never said, the apologies you never gave, the endings that never fully settled. They don't just disappear because you do. You'll carry them no matter how far you run, and eventually you'll have to face them. Because disappearing doesn't mean escape, it just means postponing the inevitable. And sooner or later, the past always catches up. In the end, disappearing feels like freedom, until you realize it's just another kind of prison. You can leave places, people, entire versions of yourself behind, but you can't outrun the echoes of what you abandoned. The people who cared will stop waiting. The memories will shift, fade, or twist into something unrecognizable. The world will move forward with or without you, and one day, you'll look back and realize that in trying to disappear, you didn't just lose others, you lost parts of yourself too. Because no matter how far you go, no matter how much you try to erase your presence, some things will always remain. The past lingers, the silence speaks, and eventually you have to face what you left behind.